and welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
Knowledge is power.
Reality is...
Excelente, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast. Today, I'm here with Josh Gebhardt. Hello, Josh. How are you today, buddy?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I'm super pumped that you agreed to come on. I've been friends with you guys for a while, but I downright admire you guys. I mean, you guys as in you and your sisters and your friend group. We all met up at a music festival. What was like 2012 or 13 or something?
A while back, for sure. It's been many years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we've had so many good times together. So yeah, I really appreciate you agreeing to come on and kind of just BS with me today, Josh.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, let's just start with like, what have you been up to the last year or so? You know, obviously everybody's lives have changed pretty dramatically in many ways, since COVID and whatnot. So what's your like last year been looking like? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I would say last year, despite as crazy as it was and all of the, bad stuff going on, I think for me personally, it was a really good year. I bought a house with my partner recently, so that's been really exciting, being a first-time home buyer. And so a lot of our focus was preparing for that, obviously financially, and we did that right before the end of the year. So a lot of the year was preparing for that. So I think having everything on lockdown was a positive for me because I wasn't spending money on traveling or going out all the time. So for me, that was a good thing. Helped me get to my goal faster of getting into a house. And then now that we've been in here, we're just really focusing on new furniture and decorating and all that stuff. So that occupies most of my time, I would say. And then career-wise, I had a successful year. I'm a director of sales at a software company, and despite all of the things that were thrown at us, we sell travel solutions to companies, and so obviously no one was traveling. So there was a lot of having to really like adapt and pivot and really show kind of resiliency in terms of how we approached how we were going to get to our numbers. And I was really happy. I got 4 out of the 6 people that work for me got promoted this year. So anytime as a leader, you're able to help people kind of get to that next step in their career is really exciting. So I'm happy to help them get there. And I finished, achieving President's Club despite how crazy the year was. So a lot to be proud of and a lot to be really appreciative and grateful of as well. So a lot of turmoil kind of like all around us, but I think, was able to, find my way through it, I guess.
Right. I mean, huge congrats on the house. That's so cool that you guys got a house. Like I've seen a couple photos and stuff, but I can't wait to see it in person.
Thank you.
Excuse me. And then also, can you explain President's Club? What is that?
Oh yeah, so President's Club is essentially if you achieve over 130% of your quota, then you qualify to go on a trip. So you get like an award and then they take you on a trip somewhere. So last year's was in Maui, which was canceled because of COVID, and then rescheduled for October, but then was canceled again. So now the next one coming up will be, it's supposed to be in Mexico next year. So we'll see how that goes and if we're able to go. But it's more so just for like the pride of achieving it, basically just trying to finish in the top, group of all the salespeople or sales leaders. And so it's kind of like what you fight for all year. So it's kind of a benchmark of if you had a successful year.
Right. Okay. I know you've worked for this company for quite a while now. How many years is it?
Over 8 years now, which is so crazy. So I think when we first met, I think I was like really newly working there when we first met. So I think I was around the same time or maybe in the first 2 years of being here.
I feel like I remember you always killing it at this job though. Like you've just been hitting the ground running since the beginning.
Yeah. I've had a really successful run here and really like grateful for that. and it's kind of interesting, I think kind of like ties into some of the stuff that we thought we might discuss today too, is I think, for me, my job and my career has really served as like a really important part of um, just like my self-confidence and how I think about myself. I really found like, I think purpose also in it, and which is interesting to
Mm.
find purpose in a corporate job, where it can be very not purposeful or not purpose driven. And I think that like the purpose that I found in it is, number one, I found something that I think I was naturally good at and had a natural kind of, tendency just to excel at, which obviously when you find something that you do well, I think it helps you feel better about yourself, right? When you experience success. But then being there for so many years and transitioning into a leadership role and leading others, I love now getting to guide or support or aid other people and them finding their native genius or what their strengths are in their job, and helping them exceed or excel and build up their confidence, and then help kind of send them off to the next point in their career. And specifically the part of the market that we sell into, because we sell to small businesses, we're typically working with people who it's like their first or second job out of college. They probably don't have a ton of professional experience, and maybe have done an internship or they have some entry level kind of experience, but they've never really done a true formal quota carrying sales job. And so I love that part of my job, because every 2-3 years I'm kind of turning over the team. It's new people, so it's constantly changing. But I think that is such an important part of someone's life. They're a young adult entering the corporate workforce or getting their first, kind of really a real adult job. And so that's where I find like the purposeful part of what I do. And that like fulfills me, where like I could just, obviously hitting a number and making money is great, but like that's the part of my job where I really like get my joy from, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, dude, I really like that. So I want to talk about purpose for sure, but I think something that I notice about you just by being your friend, I haven't worked with you in this environment, but I think that because I had wanted to talk to you about your own self-confidence, like your own belief in yourself, and it's ecstatic. It's like you have a good ability to actually like allow other people to bring out the confidence in themselves just by you being your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine, I love how you tie that into like, it's purposeful. You're stepping into the role of the leader, and you get to train these people. You get to teach them what you've been through. So I love that. But as far as purpose, I think that's an interesting one, because me as a, like I identify as a creator a lot, or just like an artistic person. And I find trouble. I have trouble finding purpose in things that aren't like my own art. It's like this weird, selfish, gets in my own way sort of thing. But it's hard for me to apply purpose to like working for another company or doing something for someone else. This totally sounds selfish, but I think could we expand more on that? Like, what do you mean by purpose? What does it really feel like to you?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, and I think it is hard, like working in my industry too. It's like I could say, well, I feel that I have, the skills and the talents. I could go, start my own company. I could be an entrepreneur. I could start a business tomorrow, or create a startup, or have an idea. But I think number one, what you do takes a lot more courage than something like what I do, right? Because I kind of toe the line of, I could go do those things. I could take those risks, but do I have the courage to really do it? So I think that's what it makes everyone really interesting and dynamic. So like I respect that quality in you so much.
Mm.
But what I mean by purpose is I think that at the point in someone's career that I get the opportunity to work with them, as I do think that is so pivotal, right? Like think about like what happens in that first couple of years outside of college is really going to be something that really is a life defining moment. Like it's going to probably not be defining in terms of the most important part of your life. But what I do is I think it's like one of those really big forks in the road where it's going to, like whatever happens in that couple of years span is going to probably put you on a trajectory or a path of where you're probably going to go for the next several years, right? So like, let's say, for example, if you get in and you don't do well, you're probably going to change industries or change career paths, right? So it's really interesting where if you can help people do that. So again, being in this little window, I feel like I really got to help kind of like guide people and get them on the right path. And, sometimes that's helping them exceed at what we do and helping them move on and move up in the company. And sometimes it's showing them that this is not meant for them and helping hold up the mirror to them and saying like, are you really happy here? Because I can't imagine working in a sales environment where you're not successful or you don't maybe align with the corporate values. You're maybe not a person who is really feels like you want to push the customer to buy more, buy something additional. Like that's not, maybe that doesn't align with your core values, but maybe you ended up in this job because you thought it was, a good thing. And so I've had to help people have, find those things too, and kind of help find them on their path. And sometimes that's helping them look outside of the company. So that's what I mean by that makes me feel purposeful. That makes me feel good about myself. Like when I can wake up, make a difference in someone's like life, and with work, we don't really think of it that like emotionally or like that much in depth. Usually it's kind of surface level. It's my boss, it's whatever. But I think if you were to ask, any of the people who've been a part of the teams that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, is like that they truly do feel like families. Though they are like my brothers. I've had mostly men that have worked for me, and we typically create like a really strong brotherhood where we stay in touch after we work together for a long time. So it's just a really special part of my life and a really special component that I know adds so much value to it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I love that. I imagine the environment to be just wonderful. I mean, I've heard like here and there stories and seen photos and whatnot, but that would be really cool to work for someone who like really sees you kind of as a person and like, hey, is this what you want to do? Not just you're not just looking out for yourself here. You're not just looking out for numbers here. You're trying to figure out, is this something you could see yourself doing for an extended period of time? I think that's really important. Your experience before working here, you didn't go to school, did you?
I didn't, which, kind of thinking about that has always served as probably like one of the biggest pieces of insecurity that I do have. Like a lot of my social circle or a lot of people that I work with now professionally, I'm probably one of the only, maybe like I've met one other person really that doesn't have a college degree, that does kind of like what I do or works really in our industry. It's just kind of more common that everyone does. And so especially in my first couple of years working at the company, I was like really insecure about it. And, because that's always like, especially in like a corporate setting, that's always everyone's first like small talk, entry level thing. Like in an interview, everyone's like, oh, you're a husky, oh, you're a kook. It's like, I've been in like dozens and dozens of interviews where it's like, that's what they talk about. And I'm like, and those are just funny things too. Like those are just like, like invisible unconscious bias that we have, right? Too, like where they don't realize that, or they don't know, you don't know like what kind of like zone that puts like an interviewee in, right? When you're talking about that, and they might not have that same thing to connect on. But so I was always really insecure about that. But now I feel like my career has kind of like replaced that. And so to myself, I feel like I've earned my stripes, and I'm really proud to be where I am. And happy, almost sometimes can be more proud that I did it without the degree, because that makes it harder in a lot of ways. But not going to school was definitely something that I always kind of like wish that I did and was kind of hard on myself about. But I think everything worked out okay. So I'm not against it. And it's always something that is there if I really wanted to go back and approach it again.
Right.
But when I think about like my individuality and kind of like the way that I view myself and a lot of my life experience that I've gotten, I got when I didn't go to college. So I think when a lot of people discover themselves or start to learn, like peel back the layers of who they are and who they want to be, and just like a lot of those life experiences, right? Like in relationships, in friendships, in being on your own, I didn't really get that in the traditional sense of going away to college or going away for 4 years. And so, but one thing that I kind of reflect or can kind of compare my experience to is I was doing a job I was working for Bank of America at the time. And I was chosen to go and be a part of their transformation team, which is where basically they were converting the computer systems in the state of California. And so long story short, I was living in California for a temporary work assignment. And I went there and I was in an apartment that the company put me in. I didn't know a single person. I was 21 but I was there by myself, and I was, discovering like my, really being open with my sexuality for the first time. But it was the first time that I felt comfortable doing so because I wasn't home, right? Like I wasn't in my hometown. I wasn't around my sisters. I wasn't around my friends. So on one side, I was so excited to just go and be completely kind of like liberated in the sense of I can go walk around or go to a bar and go experience things or try things out or see what I like, or, I'm interested in this one thing, or what, like, am I going to like that environment or whatever it is, right? So I had the ability to go be really curious, but I also had the chance to be myself without any like any baggage of who you think you are, the way that you grow up, or who you're around, or pressures that you think, the people you might hurt the people around you to be your authentic self, or whatever that might be. So that was really freeing and really liberating for me. And then at the same time, it also, I, moved away from a small town in Monroe, Washington, and then was able to go be there. And I didn't know anybody at all, right? So it was my first time. I would go to like a bar, and I would go and I have to I'd give myself a pep talk on the way,
Mm.
like in the car. And I'd be like, okay, you're gonna go to the bar. You're going by yourself. You don't have a single friend. You don't know a single person in LA. You have to go and be like, have the ability to go like start a conversation with someone like face to face. And so like I would do that. Like I would go to dinner by myself. I would go to a bar and I would just go and like approach people. And so I think it was really uncomfortable. It's definitely not fun at first, but I think like forcing myself to do that really taught me a lot about just kind of like confidence and not being like afraid of people. And just being willing to like take the risk and say like whatever, like obviously I'm sure there's not every person that like I tried to strike a connection with, obviously doesn't happen, but you find people, or you also can really connect with someone that shows you some sort of like openness or friendship or warmth back in response. Then you're like, it just kind of like instantly can like spark joy for you, or show you like that people are good. And then those are how great friendships begin. Those are how great adventures begin. And so there's so many people that I met and connected with that were really impactful during that time in my life too, and that people that I'm still friends with today too. So I think that was kind of for me like my quote unquote college experience of like getting to go be there and do that. And I think that really transformed me a lot too.
Right. Yeah. You kind of put yourself through the social side of college of, I mean, I imagine you going through these pep talks, like you in your car, like, all right, let's go. Or you're looking in the mirror, like at a hotel, just, you got to meet people, you got to talk to them, make eye contact, like that's powerful though, man. I mean, that's really how you make real connections, and challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone. And, I mean, I think, when I remember, because I grew up in fairly small town, Kelso, Washington, and it was kind of the same thing for me. I didn't move away, but I started traveling, even for like Wadeka, and
Mhm.
then for like audio and stuff, or live events soon after. And I remember there was just this thing that I didn't realize that had been there before, but like your assumptions of what everybody is thinking about you by staying in your same town. It's kind of like you're walking around in high school and you're kind of stuck to your avatar of whatever you like, whatever clique you're in and wherever you stand with it. You actually have that in your town. And I remember when I went to places like Bellevue, even not even that far, it's 3 hours away, and I just felt more open. Like I feel like my chest opened up. I felt like I was more confident in myself. When I would meet people, I felt fine shaking their hand more firmly, looking them in the eye, these sorts of things. And I imagine the doors that this opens compared to, kind of being in our shell, maybe staying on our phones, not challenging ourselves to do these, like potentially, like you might introduce yourself and make a fool out of yourself. And
Yeah.
then you got three people who are just like making fun of you or something. I mean, unlikely, but that's pretty powerful, man. I think that's not a skill that everybody, um, not that it's a skill that you were born with, so to say. Like you definitely have sharpened that because you weren't always here. But I think a lot of people would benefit even from just hearing you talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I think, coming back from that, like from that, temporary, time of being there, then when I came back, I think I was not like a changed person at my core of who I was, what my values are, the type of person that I was. But I think I came back, like I said, like with a lot of like weight off of me. I had a lot more confidence, a lot more like swagger in my step, and just a lot more self-assurance of who I was. And I was more proud of who I was, because I found in making connections with strangers, or people in a new town and new people, that like people liked me, and they liked me there when I took off the baggage of who I thought I was supposed to be, or
Mm.
taking my own light, or carrying the burdens of of anything of your past, right? Or just, anything like that. So, and I realized that people were more drawn to me, and I was naturally becoming more magnetic to the right type of people that I wanted to be around. And so then when I returned to Seattle and came home, I definitely, got back into like a lot of my old friendships, but at the same time, I was still kind of really craving that ability to kind of like keep stepping out, keep experiencing new things, keep meeting new people. And then what was funny in turn too is I think that once I came back and had that like renewed sense of self, it's funny, like I feel like also people from my past who maybe I didn't have the best relationship or dynamic with, it's almost like I felt like they were then, or maybe people, let me be more clear. People that maybe I felt like I didn't know where I stood with them, or I wasn't sure of how our friendship was, or how they perceived me, or maybe I felt a little bit insecure about my friendships or relationships or dynamics with certain people. People that I felt like maybe I was a little bit more not chasing, but felt maybe like lesser than in my own mind, or was I cool enough, or was I good enough, or do I fit in with
Mm,
them?
right.
When I came back and I had that renewed sense of self, those people started to naturally come back to me, not through my own efforts, but just because I think that, again, once you start living as you're supposed to live and being who you're supposed to be, I think you're not like the authenticity that you display and exhibit and demonstrate is going to be what naturally brings people back to you. And so I thought that was like really interesting too, because that was an outcome or a result that I had never planned on or never saw really happening. But it was really, and then I think that also compounded my confidence in saying, look, the more that I'm myself, the more that I'm authentic, the more that I accept myself, the more that people around me are going to be attracted to me, because it is real, it is genuine, it is honest. And so I thought that was like a really interesting kind of thing to experience and see as well.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I like how you tied in authenticity with your confidence. I feel like that's totally what it is. I mean, it's just like I was saying, when you're confident, like me, just as your friend, you encourage me to be more authentic when I'm around you. Like just because you are naturally that way. Like your confidence just has a has an aroma, you know, it just comes off and people around you are also confident. I think that's pretty powerful stuff. When it comes to authenticity, let's switch over to social media. So I'm always like, because again, like trying to present myself as an artist, or like I'm a DJ and I have like this like character that I kind of have to play on stage in some senses, you know, it's almost like an act. Or like on the podcast, I want to, like, my thing, I want to be authentic. Like, not that I want to like tell all my deepest, darkest like fears and just like make sure that's on there every episode or anything. But I want to show up as myself. But then there's also this part of me that like changes. Like, let's make sure you're a good host. Let's make sure you're doing these different things. Like, I think that social media and even our work, like the things that we do, they kind of become extensions of who we are, or like almost like a trained, delicate part of our ego, like um, our identity that we interact with everybody else in the outside world. So, what do you think about when it comes to situations where you're kind of like putting on different versions of yourself, but keeping your authenticity? Like, so how do you, like, say you identify Josh as a, like, I'm a nice guy. That's like, I feel it like, I not only identify it, but I know that I'm a nice guy. But then you have a meeting at work where you got to be the guy to fire someone. You got to be the bad guy. Um, how do you, I guess, how do you balance like the different aspects of our personalities that have to interact with the outside world, whether that's on social media or at work or whatever, with being truly authentic? Does anything pop up to you in that?
Yeah, a little bit. So I think, social media in itself, I don't know if this is directly answering your question, but
I
social
didn't
media
give you
itself,
a direct question.
that's
I'm
okay.
rambling.
I'll pick where I want to dive in here. Um, I think with social media, I think it's so interesting and it's ever changing, right? Too. I think like when we met, like when you and I first met, I definitely cared so much more about social media, and I don't know if that's I definitely care less. Um, but I can tell myself that I care less because I put less effort into like taking pictures and doing the right thing and trying to like go somewhere. But I do still have an element of me that does want to. Actually, this is interesting. This is just brought me this thought. This might be more interesting. So with social media, there was definitely a time, and I probably still have elements of this if I'm being completely honest. But there was elements of I would try to do things or achieve a certain amount of success financially or materialistically, to prove that I had somehow accomplished something or that I was good enough. And a lot of that, I read this book called The Velvet Rage, which I
Hmm.
Really recommend. It's about growing up gay, basically in like like a hetero world, and it's written by a psychologist. And there's a couple different kind of like personality types or archetypes that you could kind of probably try to identify with as a gay person. And when I was reading the book, one of them is someone who basically tries to overcompensate with non-emotional things to prove that they're good enough or that they're better. So like for me, like I would always prove with a trip that I was on or somewhere that I was posting or what designer I was wearing. I was basically saying like, yes, I'm gay, but look how successful I am, or look what I've accomplished. Like,
Oh, right,
so
right,
you
right.
can't like, well, like, you can't, it's different than if you want to like insult me and if I was, if I wasn't successful or whatever, then I'm going to take it more, but I'm basically using all that stuff as like a shield and armor as, or like a defense to say like, yes, I'm gay, but look at all these great things I am. So like, you can't really like judge my life or because I'm like, I'm so-and-so better than you, or I'm or whatever. I'm trying to elevate myself, but it's with things that are not like that aren't meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I thought
What was
that,
the name of that book?
yeah, The Velvet Rage. I don't know the name of the author. I'd have to look, but the author is a psychologist, and so and then there's different people who would escape through promiscuity and sex to try to feel like to fill a void or to do all that, right? So I think there's different ways. But I think once I learned that, and I talked to like people close to me or my sisters, I think like they would definitely say like, yeah, you definitely have that element of like you have something to prove, kind of in that sense too. And so that definitely is an element of my personality or the reason I do things or how I make decisions. Sometimes is definitely based on that. I do have like a part of my ego that definitely drives me to do those sort of things.
Right. Do you know, can you recall like the transition or when you were able to, because now you're looking back at it in retrospect, like, oh, okay, maybe I was, you know, or posting these certain things to try to fulfill something that I didn't realize I was telling myself I didn't have.
Mhm.
And of course the book itself probably changed a lot of that, but do you remember a time when like, when did the actual change happen? And I asked that because I'm pretty convinced that a lot of people, because we all have our own thing like that to some extent. I feel like for sure, and a lot of people, I think over the last year, because we've kind of been forced inside and we've been forced to check out our interiors as individuals. I think a lot of people are probably coming to terms with, oh, I was doing this to get this, or just me as an example. I'm definitely someone who I'm always trying to balance how much self validation I'm seeking, like how much validation I'm trying to get by, like, oh, don't you see me as an artist, or don't you see me as like a nice podcast guy, or whatever it is. So that exact, like that moment of change. And then were you nice to yourself about it, or were you like, you weren't like embarrassed or anything, like, oh, I'm so ashamed that I used to do these things, or
No, I'm like a I'm like a no shame. That's a fault. I'm like a no shame person. I'm always like there was reasoning behind that. There was the why behind that. No, so definitely I've never really been a person that's been too tough on myself. And I think that part of me is natural. I'm definitely not a person that's hard on myself. I'm definitely like a person that's like, you earned it, you deserve it. Self-care. Come on, splurge, like whatever it is. So I'm indulgent. And like if I want something, I'll get it. I don't like being told no. So I'm not really hard on myself in that sense. But I think, I've had a couple situations where you kind of, when you talk about like those pivotal moments or in reflection, is I think that you end up in either situations or relationships, like friendships or social settings, and you realize that there's no stakes in them. There's no meaning. There's no depth, right? And then you might be like, there you might just be at a party and be like, who like why am I
Hmm.
really here? You're like, oh, because I met someone that like, or met someone off of Instagram, or that I saw someone at a party and like whatever we connected in. But then you're there and like you're like, we're not talking about anything of meaning. These aren't people that I like. These aren't people that if I had them over that I wouldn't want to kick them out at like the end of the night. It's not people that I would want to be around sober and be watching a movie with on a Sunday. I can tell you that much. It's not
Right.
So I think you end up in situations like that, and you're like, what am I chasing? Because they're cool, because they like the way that they dress, or because like we like the same music. Like there can be meaning in those things too. But I think like ending up in those situations, I'm like, and then the people that I truly am closest with, that I truly have vulnerable moments with heartfelt conversations. I'm like, it's not impressing them, and they're almost seeing the people that are close to me. They almost see the facade of who you're trying to be, which is probably almost
Mm,
diminishing in turn those relationships. Not that they're gonna like walk away from me, but they're probably rolling their eyes and saying like, that's not the Josh that I know. Like, who's like projecting something or trying to be something or trying to be cool. That's not who. Like when I'm with Josh, he's a dork. He doesn't shut up. He's a person who will send text or will send 10 text messages in a row. He's a person who's like a little annoying. He's a little over the top. So it's like, but then so it's like they're probably like questioning like, am I being authentic too? And then those people, I'm just kind of like, putting on a little bit of a charade just to like fit in, or because I think they're cool. And like, what makes anyone cool anyways? I don't know. It's just such a weird thing.
right.
But I think the like, moments like that make you start to be like, the things that you post for social media are never typically for you. You're not, when you do it in your subconscious, I don't think we're thinking about what is like, I don't think about like, what is Brittany Cooey gonna say? What is, what are my best friends in my group chat gonna say? What are my sisters gonna say? I'm thinking like, oh, I wonder like if these like one of like these random people, like what's their impression gonna be of me, right? So we're kind of like I think that's an interesting way of how we look at what we post and what we present or what we put out there.
Yeah, yeah, because we do kind of like try to paint this corner of ourselves, you know. I mean, it's at this point we've had social media long enough now. It's not like we're blind to it anymore. Like everybody knows, oh, okay, this is our highlight reel. Like this isn't. I feel like there was a first few years of social media where it was just kind of blind to a lot of us. We didn't really realize what we were doing. Me for sure. I remember I had photo. I wanted to like I want to find the photo and like put them side by side. But I had a photo where I went out with a photo shoot with my friend, and I actually photoshopped like my bicep to be a little bit bigger in the photo.
Yeah.
And like it was weird because as I was doing it, like it never occurred. Like it was like, oh yeah, I'm making the photo look cooler. Like so I put them side by side, and the one where my bicep looks bigger, like yeah, it's like a more appealing photo to someone who's scrolling through. And then like a year later, I was thinking about it, or I looked at it, or I saw it, and I'm like, what a strange thing to do. Like, why would I need to do? And I wonder what it does to me. As someone, I struggle with insecurity a lot, and I just wonder like what that solidifies in me. And I wonder now, I'm like, oh, is that healthy? So I try to, I get the visual aspects of social media because it's super cool. And just because I have like kind of a sloppy page now, because I'm trying to be authentic, or there I am trying to communicate a certain way on my social media. I think the coolness of presenting yourself in this certain way on social media is like, that's an awesome thing humans are doing. I think social media is, as much as I like harp on it and try to dissect it, it's really cool that we're able to present ourselves in these ways.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes perfect sense. I had a question for you actually too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like as a creative person and a person who has really kind of, you have taken so many different like avenues and ways to like express your creativity, like, obviously with your music, and now with being a podcast host and so many other different, vehicles, do you have like a life affirming moment, or has there been anyone in your life that was like really instrumental? Do you think that helped kind of guide you or put you on your path to like creativity and expressing yourself and doing a lot of things that you do?
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I draw inspiration from like, I mean, as a general statement, like I have met so many cool people that I couldn't even like narrow it down. I think that the way that I act, let's put it this way. I had like a rough go at it growing up, but what it made me do is it made me basically kind of like an introverted, quiet observer of other people. And so it made me kind of like, as everybody else is interacting, doing their thing, I've used this example with my counselor. As family is watching TV, everybody's enjoying the movie, they're into the movie. I feel like a lot of times I'm watching the family watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like observing what everybody's doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what I kind of do is I take just little bits and pieces from everybody. Like if I watch a cool video, if I watch, Kanye West doing something, or Michael Jackson doing something, or even somebody in my life, like my friend's dad, do something or say something that's inspiring, I'll change who I am quickly. Like it'll just hit me, and I'm like, oh, I want to be more like that. So I I don't know that there was never anybody when I was younger anyway that was like, oh, he's a creator and I want to be that, or he's a DJ and I want to be that. But I think just my way of observing the world inevitably started to fall as I got older. It started to fall into like, well, you're really kind of creating your own. A DJ takes a little bit of this song, a little bit of this song, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this sample, and makes their own sort of thing. But I did have a moment as far as DJing goes. I guess I could say Cascade at Identity Fest in like 2011, right before it became Paradiso at the Gorge. I did have a profound moment where it didn't really occur to me to ever be a DJ. And I was sitting by myself on the hill. It was all my friends were out dancing, like it was all good vibes. I wasn't like sad boy sitting by myself or anything. But Cascade was playing, and it just like hit me. I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to make people feel like this because I'm looking around and people are, I mean, sure, like a bunch of them are rolling their balls off, but and, just feeling good from those sorts of things. But people were happy, like people were joyous. And I remember I had this profound moment of, oh, I want to do this. I want to do what that guy on stage is doing because I can make people feel really good. And that seems awesome. So that's kind of one, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really interesting too to hear you say that like what drove you to that is because of the way that it would make people feel, not because of what it was for you. It's like that was like that's really cool to hear that too. Like that was, and that does make sense to what you said with your analogy of watching the family watch the movie. It's like you're sitting there and you're watching the people experience the music and experience the joy and be in the moment, and you were saying, I want to facilitate that, or I want to create that for other people to go and experience too. So that's pretty cool. I love hearing that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you. That's a pretty good question. I feel like I've never, I don't know. Did you have anybody growing up who was like, this is my idol? Like, I want to be like this person. Did you have anybody when you were young? Was like
I
that?
mean, like I liked a lot of like musicians and stuff like that. But I would say like in terms of people, like more importantly than that, I would say like people that really shaped me. Definitely like from a young age, like always had like a really special connection with my mom and with my entire family unit. Like my entire family is so close, but I feel like my mom, when I spoke before, when I was like, I'm not hard on myself at all. I'm like, can sometimes be like too far the other way. Is like growing up, my mom, like, and I don't know how she did it, but she did it in just naturally and in every way. Like I was always so confident as a kid, like even as a kid, even as a gay kid, even like I would like calmly be like, oh mom, this called me a fag today. But like it didn't like I wasn't like broken by it. I wasn't crying by it. Like, yeah, for sure was there like a couple like, like a hard day here and there, but like overall I wasn't like I didn't really experience like hardcore bullying or anything like that. I had like a really like people would make comments or hear people call me a name, but like I always possessed this way of like someone could call me a name or I would know someone would like think being gay was a bad thing behind my back when I was a kid or growing up or whatever it was. But like for some reason, I don't know if I just always had like blinders on, not to that it existed, but like it just I never would let it penetrate me. And it never penetrated how I viewed myself. And I think, a lot of that is attribute just to like my sisters and my dad and my mom, because I always felt so like inside my home and in my family. I feel like I had like the most like idyllic childhood in the sense of we always had so much fun. We were always laughing. And I was always able to be 100% myself. And my family, my sisters, my mom, my dad, they always made me feel like you could literally do anything that you want to do. But at the same time, what I think was unique about the way that my family did that and created that environment for me, it was one without pressure or without like, when you hear people be like, oh, my parents pushed me to play sports or they pushed me to do this thing,
Mm.
right? Like I played sports. I was the number one seeded tennis player for my high school in my junior year of high school. And I quit my senior year. And like every other parent would have been like, you can't, what do you mean you're going to
Yeah.
quit? You can't
Quit your
quit.
senior year? No way.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like my parents never they said you can be whatever you want to be, but never with limitations or with like their own want fulfillment or their own like pressure to go make me do something. Like I could quit my job tomorrow and tell my mom I'm going to go be a surf bum. I don't surf, by the way, I wish, but like I could tell my mom I'm going to go quit my job and go be a surf bum, and she would support me 100% without question, without fail. And she's done that for all of her children. And my dad would be the same way. So I think that was really unique. That was really unique about just the way that I was brought up. I always have felt like I could literally do anything because I always had the support and love of those other four people constantly every single day like no matter what I did that was good or was bad. And I think that that is what makes me so great. Like when I think about what I'm most grateful of and most appreciative of, it's definitely my family, because I think, I just have heard stories, or I have volunteered at, the Orion Youth Center in Seattle with LGBTQI youth that are homeless because they've been kicked out because of who they are, or people who, aren't kicked out, not to those extremes, but they live with a family who they don't feel like they can be themselves. And that doesn't always come back to just, sexuality. That can come back to what they want to do with their lives, the grades that they get, the friends they hang out with, right? Like there can be so many different things, but I think having that core unit and that security and safety around me, like I've always just been like walking through life, like the sky's the limit, and like I can go anywhere I want to go. I can do whatever I want to do, because no matter what, I have that waiting for me, and that's always there for me, and that's never wavered, and they've never wavered on me once. So I think I think that's what allows me to be confident, right? Sorry, that was really long-winded, but and then I would say, like, additionally, like one person that I think when I asked you about life affirming moments or anyone pivotal in your life, I think there's certain people that come to you that are just meant to be a part of your journey, and that kind of see something in you before you see it in yourself. And so I was like when I was in high school, I was in leadership, and my leadership teacher was this great guy, Nick Wold, and he was also like the basketball coach, and now he's an athletic director. He's like an incredible educator and a incredible person to be, mentoring, youth. I remember I was in his leadership class, and he was like, Josh, I think you'd be really good at this. Like there's an internship to go work at the bank. And I like blew it off, but he was like, I can see you being really good in business. I can see you being really like savvy in these ways, or I can see you having these certain skills or traits that would make you successful in doing this. And then it was like funny, because then after high school, I got a job at a bank, and I worked in banking for 5 years, and I got that job in California. Right. So those are what I think are so special. Those are people that like, I knew him for 1 to 2 years, but he served such a purpose in putting me on a path and saw something in me before I saw it in myself. And I was like, then you think, okay, well, if this teacher believes in me that I would be good at this, then like I respect him and I trust his opinion, like then like I guess I could be good at that, right? So then like that's another confidence building thing, right? So I think and then to kind of bring it full circle, that's the role that I feel like I play for the people that I have the opportunity to lead now. So it's like, so it's kind of like the same thing. So I think, there's been so many people in my life that I've been so, fortunate and lucky to have, that have kind of like guided me or saw something in me and challenged me to like, okay, don't just be like a little brat. Like what, like you have something cool in there, like do something with it. Like you could be successful in these ways. Right. So, I think, there's people like that I think have been so instrumental. And so that's kind of what I mean about the purpose that I serve for others is now in my role too. So I think it's kind of interesting to see that translate, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so beautiful, actually, to think that like it really did come full circle like that. You ended up being that person that you didn't even realize was kind of looking out for you at that young age. It actually came to mind as I have had a couple instances where, teachers or people like older people in my life would tell me that I'm like give me a little bit of confidence. I remember I had the assistant principal at my high school when I was in like 10th or 11th grade or something. I remember going late to a prom or a winter ball or a homecoming or something like that, and walked in, and he literally just he just took a couple minutes. He pulled me aside right when we walked in for my friends, and basically just kind of gave me like a 2-3 minute, hey, if you didn't realize, you're a leader. Like people look up to you. Like, and it was just so unexpected. I mean, it stuck with me for sure. Like I guess I didn't think about it at first, but as you were saying that definitely popped into mind. Just like that couple minutes that he took to pull me to the side and say like, hey, in case you're not saying it, you're a leader. Like people look up to you. And I don't know. I know there's a lot of people at a young age. I'm still like coming to terms with a lot of my memory from my childhood is either I don't remember it or it's just super tainted. Like I'm just like super sour about a lot of stuff, and I'm still in the process of healing a lot of that. Like just my opinions of people in my life over the last couple of years have changed, and I've just become more grateful rather than like bitter, and just not realizing I was bitter. But there has been a couple people who like were looking out for me, and they would give me little pinches of hope. I didn't exactly have the the family unit to encourage me. But now, I mean, I'm again grateful to say, if I text either of my sisters right now and tell them what I'm working on, they're like, "That's awesome!" Like for my birthday, they get me like journals to write in because they believe in me as a writer. There's it really I am very grateful now for the relationships that I have with my family. But growing up, we didn't have too much of that. We were all kind of just like fighting for survival for us at that point, as intense as that sounds.
Mhm.
Um, but wow, isn't that so cool to think of, just one person could say one little thing or pull you to the side and say, like, hey, you're a leader, or like, why don't you
Mhm.
apply for this job? And you're like, me? Like, why would I apply for it? And he's like,
Yeah.
because you'd be good at it. I see you.
Mhm.
That's what they're saying, right? Just like in Avatar, that's the scene where they're just like, I see you. It's
Mhm.
pretty powerful.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that is something that, that is such a good reminder to all of us, like when you do see something in someone, and like, I think, right, when we're not in school, we have probably less opportunities for people to be kind of looking out for us in that sense and trying to probably highlight or bring those things to our attention. So I think it's such a good reminder for us to say, like, like if you have a friend who you see doing something really cool, or you see a quality in them that they might not see in themselves, I think it's such a great opportunity to build them up, or shine that light back on them and say, hey, like, did you realize like you're really good at this? Or
Mhm.
when you speak on this topic, people really listen to you. They care what you have to say. Or it can be so many different things, but I think it's a good reminder to find opportunities and make be intentional and make an effort to do that for the people that are around us, because those things, like we can see now, right, we have all of those examples of how valuable those can be, and maybe the impact of those won't be felt for 5, 10 years, 20 years, but like those things will be remembered, right? Like, oh, that person had that conversation with me, they opened me up to see something that I didn't see. And I think those are like the really kind of like big special moments of life too, that go so far.
Yeah, man, definitely. It is really cool how just someone not only seeing the spark in you, but extending, like trying to reach into you and pull it out a little bit. They're like, hey, like this is a part of you that is important, and I love that part of you, and that part of you is shining outwardly. I think that that is something that I tried to do through this podcast. I always tried to be encouraging. Like if people are starting a new project, if people are, doing some sort of like they just started a small business, they're an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I mean, I like to try to meet people on that level of like self belief. Like, cool, like you can do it. And I know a lot of people who you could almost see like the sparks come in their eyes when it's like, oh, really? You think I could do this? Yeah, like you think me? Um, and that's really encouraging. Do you have when let's see, when we switch back to or whatever happens next, right? When we're not all, hopefully wearing masks, maybe we can shake hands again. I don't know when any of that's coming along. Um, I think that a lot of people are going to probably have to almost reinstall their confidence, like kind of get back used to being social.
Mhm.
Do you have anything that is it all just a natural process for you, or do you have anything that you consciously now bring to the table, like when you're about to go into a meeting, when you're about to meet a new client? Do you nowadays have any sort of pep talks in your car before you go in?
I haven't had any pep talks in the car recently because I've been working from home virtually. But what's interesting for me too is I feel like I'm able to much more engage or turn on or um, be more dynamic like in person, like than like if you were to like if a random friend was to like call me and like want to like talk on the phone for an hour, like I would not want to talk to them on the phone. um or like with my team, like I'd rather be in person with them, and I would sit next to them side by side and work on something with them. But like when they want to like when we meet virtually, I'm like, oh, sometimes I'm like, oh, I roll, like I don't want to do this, like I don't know why. So like I'm a person that much more comes alive, thrives on the in-person stuff, so that I'm like really ready to get back into. But I do think it's going to be strange because because I think people are still socializing today, right? But it's probably with like that core unit of like their closest friends or family. So yeah, like once we go back out into the world, it's going to be interesting to see how we all, have adapted and changed, or how do we have to relearn like, a lot of like that social stuff that we're not used to, right?
Hmm.
Anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I want to like encourage people hit the ground running once we are open to like, you know, we're going to have to watch our, hey, your natural bias is going to be because you've been at home in your basement in your sweatpants, for the last year. Like that's your new normal. You're comfortable with that. And so we're going to have to reach inside of ourselves and kind of pull out the confidence aspects and try to really show up. I mean, I know me, just because I'm, I don't know, overly neurotic about things. I have to like overly analyze them. They don't always become, it's not always a natural, oh, just go talk to this person. So I know me, I'm going to be like, okay, what's my posture like? I'm going to be trying to police my eye contact, all these sorts of things. And I even, the job I'm working now, I was talking about it with my friend Tyler Milliken on the podcast yesterday. We were talking about even my transition from kind of going through, all of my, I don't know, like life changes, spiritual stuff. The last couple of years, my journey has been trying to work through a lot of like childhood trauma stuff, trying to change, limiting beliefs, just things that weren't working out for me, just trying to find what is working for me and what's helpful and how I can live life to the best of my ability. I was just in my basement a lot, and I went to this new job, and the first month at least, I was awkward as all hell. I was like, I couldn't do small talk. I was like, I went from meditating every day, at least an hour a day. Well, not every day, an hour a day, every day, but quite a bit of meditation, quite a bit of yoga, just being with myself, being a weirdo. So just going back into the public of, oh yeah, we can have, like, not everything is so serious, Jake. Like, we don't have to talk about the universe at all times. We're just trying to do some paperwork, so that transition was interesting. So I think a lot of people are going to, when we do go back to the regular schedule, I hope we're able to find confidence within each of ourselves.
Well, that's interesting too, because what's cool about you have done obviously a lot of work on yourself, right? During the time you said over the past year, even just through your mindfulness and your meditation and all those things too. So what's kind of cool for you too, one way you can look at it is say like the version of yourself you're bringing back into the world is an improved version of yourself, right? It's like because you've made those investments and wanting to evolve or grow. And so like, that's kind of cool. Like you could show people like, someone who's evolved or someone who's, gone through some transformation in some way. So you're kind of bringing a better version of yourself, and you can look at last year as like, you were able to take that time to invest in yourself and you're bringing the new one out to show off for the first time.
Yeah. I'm Jake 2.0, son.
2.0.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. When do you think we'll be able to get back to festivals and concerts soon?
I read something yesterday that they said fall 2021, but I would probably say 2022 to be honest, depending upon how everything goes with vaccines, which I know is such a hot topic for everybody, like positive and negative, right? People have different viewpoints. I don't have a strong viewpoint one way or the other on them. But I do think, I'm in support of it. Let me say that I'm very supportive of the vaccine and I love that it's going to be available, and I want people to have it available to them. I just don't have a strong, personal, stance on it, I guess.
Stake in it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I love that it's available, and I want it to be out there for people that want it and give people that peace of mind and that safety and that security. And I know, friends, parents and things like that who are immunocompromised or, dealing with stuff. So I know like that just causes like a day-to-day stressor for them where they're like, they think about it in the back of their mind all day, every day. Like, what if my, parent catches it? So for them to be able to have that, I think is such a beautiful thing. And it's really cool to see how quickly that was able to be turned around. And so hopefully everyone can get on the same page and make this a positive thing. But yeah, I hopefully soon, like, it's funny, I don't miss Seattle bars because they're just pretty basic, to be honest. But like, I miss dancing, man, like actually dancing. Like, okay, I'm going to show you this. I'm having some girlfriends over next week for Galentine's Gayentine's party that we do sometimes.
Oh, I love it.
And I literally bought a disco ball. Can you see it?
Oh, what?
Yeah, so I need to install that. But like, I'm telling you, like, I want to be like hardcore, like grimy, sweaty dancing in a dark room with some lights on, like, or something. You know what I mean? I just want to feel the music. Like, but like, I don't need to like go sit in like a sports bar, but like, I want to like dance for real.
Yeah, dude, definitely. I miss that too. That makes me so excited that you're actually going to hang an entire disco ball in your home. That's a cool thing about being a homeowner. You don't even have to second guess it. You're like, I don't I don't care. Put a giant screw in the ceiling and
I'm gonna do like a temporary command strip and hopefully hope it stays. But
that's gonna turn the party up when the disco ball eats shit on the ground.
Luis was like, "That's huge. It's way bigger than I thought. It's bigger than I thought it was." So I'm very amped for this to be up. So that shows where my mind's at. I'm looking to disco right now.
No, that's super good. That's exciting. I mean, you'll be back with a karaoke mic in your hand in no time.
Oh,
I think that I've
that's
witnessed
fun.
you. What? Ooh, it's Bruno Mars, 24
Yeah,
karat gold. That's
Uptown,
definitely your.
Uptown Funk.
Oh, is it Uptown Funk?
Yeah, it's Uptown Funk. They sound similar.
Oh man, I feel embarrassed. I should know that. I'm a DJ,
That's
right?
okay. Most people try to block that out of their memory because it's so bad. So
No, dude, I love it. See, I'm someone who's like when you're it's another one of those energy things. You're picking up on someone's energy. Like it's exciting to see someone enjoying themselves. It's not always like when you go out to an open mic night or a karaoke bar, it's not always like I'm going to go hear someone who's better than Alicia Keys. Like,
yeah,
no, you're going to go see someone having a blast, and if you're even halfway human, you're going to start having a blast too by just watching them, you know?
I know we need to get Rockbox back open, man. I'm like, doesn't that count as like everyone has their own room? Shouldn't they be able to be open?
Actually, they should be. Yeah, Rockbox were the private karaoke rooms. I feel like that
Uh,
actually should be something that. Do you know if they went under at all, or are they
I think they're
still?
open. I saw they had like 2 outdoor little tables so that people are drinking in there, which I don't know what the point of drinking there without the karaoke is, but um, you know,
Any place to drink? Yeah.
I was joking with my closest friends and family, and we're like literally like they're just grateful. One of the silver linings of COVID was that they haven't had to hear me sing karaoke for a year, so that's one of the positive outcomes for everyone.
Well, little do they know we're all in the karaoke gym right now. We're all practicing, so we're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
come. Yeah, we're gonna come back out just like ready to perform whole albums at this point.
exactly. You're gonna have to send me some send me anything good you have like Studio 54 style music for when I get my disco ball set up.
Okay, I could probably do that. I probably got a couple jams or two. It's been interesting my taste in music. You know, since I started a couple years ago, started listening to so many podcasts and stuff. Anyway, I get so obsessed in what I'm doing. Like normally, like as a DJ, I would be constantly listening to music, but not just to enjoy it. I'm putting this song in a playlist. I'm listening to this song. I would have a feed.
Instrument.
Yeah, yeah. Like every day, I would have a feed that I go through and basically organize new music into new playlists that I'm gonna play, or like, oh, I have a gig next week here, so that's gonna change what I listen to during this week. But once I started doing a lot of the podcast stuff and the mental health stuff, I've listened to less music, and certainly less music in that way, because I've kind of like switched my obsession over into, exploring the mind and exploring the human condition, those sorts of things. But I'm always in like some sort of a balance of trying to like listening to what's popular right now is very interesting to me, because there's a lot of artists who are like, probably getting out old songs that are, you know, right now, since we're not able to go to clubs and stuff, and we're not able to have, outdoor beach parties, when we hear someone rapping or singing about it, it doesn't hit as hard anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's just, so it's kind of curious to like hit the bar of what's popular and what should we be listening to and talking about right now.
Yeah, it is. It is really interesting. I think music is starting to sound. I think every genre is starting to blend too. It's like country music sounds more like pop music than pop music, because pop
Hmm.
music sounds more like hip hop. But it's just very interesting how genres are. Which doesn't matter. Just interesting, I guess. But yeah, I listen to podcasts way more than I listen to music. Which before I felt like I was always listening to new music, new songs. But I've made a conscious effort. Just like last week, I've just like been looking on Spotify and trying to find like more like house music playlists and just get back into it. And last weekend, Luis and I were driving around just like running errands, but like all day long we were just like vibing to house music in the car, and it was really fun. I think like that music though, it's funny because I get into the same cycle just listening to podcasts, but then I'm like, I was having so much more fun listening to like some house music and like just like like it was making me smile just to like have that. So I'm gonna continue to make a conscious effort to like make sure that I'm balancing out like getting some good music and like creating that vibe a lot more than just podcasts about housewives all the time.
Yeah, dude, I totally get you there. You do have to balance it. You kind of underestimate like when I'll wake up and put on podcasts about like kind of serious stuff, or I'll be, foolish and listen to some sort of news or what's going on. Like if, the word Trump is in the title, I don't want to start my morning with that, but sometimes I'll get pulled into it. And I think that I've had other mornings where I wake up and I recognize, ooh, today I need some dance. I need to move around, I need to move my body. And dude, there's powerful. It's a good thing to wake up, start your day, and be like, I'm gonna listen to some music for a little while and dance around. Like the rest of your day is gonna be way better.
Well, are you gonna put back on your are you willing to bring back uh put back on your DJ skills for us when I need to throw a revival of National Josh Geb Day and have you DJ again.
100%. Tell me when I'm in.
That was fun. That one when you DJ'd it, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, that was pretty fun. I I want to say that was quite a few years ago. I want to say that I went out the night before in Portland, and then we drove up to Seattle. I think that I remember being really hungover, actually.
We were like out on I was like out on the patio of that restaurant or whatever. That was fun though. That was good.
Yeah, no, that was super cool. It'll be nice to be able to do those sorts of things again too, and just have people there and listen to music and vibe. I think that we're gonna come back so much more grateful. Like, just the ability to just have a beer and a casual conversation with some decent music playing in the background. Like that right there, give me that. I'm so content.
Some people are projecting or predicting that it'll be like the Roaring Twenties again because it'll be like people are able to do it, right? So it'll be interesting to see like are people going to be so craving like those experiences and nightlife and debauchery in that way. So it'll be interesting to see like what things are like,
Right. Yeah. I've been curious about that too because I mean I'm hoping when things open back up or whatever that means, right, that I'm able to just like, all right, every weekend I'm working again. And like now people want DJs on Tuesday nights too. So I'll do that too.
There
So
you go.
I've been hopeful about it, but it's been another thing with identity. It's been what 10, I think it was middle of March when we shut down. And I was at a show for audio. I mean, I did a little DJing at that show. Oh, it was Wadeka FLC actually up in Bellevue. But that was this last year, and I've played maybe two weddings in that time, and then I've done some virtual stuff. But mostly, man, I feel like I don't know if I identify with being a DJ so much anymore. Like it seems like it's been that long. It's this weird thing where and I also had a lot of like changes in my life right after COVID too. And so I'm working on some stuff like a mix that I got to send in on Sunday. And so the last couple of days I've been DJing and I'm like rusty, man. I'm not super like there's literal dust on my turntables and it's weird to me. So it's been an adjustment. So I think everybody coming back, I think it'll definitely be the Roaring Twenties, but even DJs are gonna have to like,
Brushing up.
yeah, brush off the dust, dude. So you'll be brushing off your shoes, the dust on your dance shoes, and the karaoke mics. But
I'm ready.
yeah, what's the best festival you've ever been to? Like what year too?
Ooh, good question. Um, I would say Ultra in Miami was one of them, and that was 2013, I think. And then one of them, I mean, definitely like all the that couple year of Coachellas in a row that we did, I think were like the most magical. And I think for different reasons too, the Ultra one was fun because I went with one friend, and that was like an adventure one where like we met strangers and like we like made friends and like rode in the car with them to the festival that we just met 5 minutes ago, and then like now they live at like I've visited them, or I've not visited them, but I visited Texas and seen them, like met them up at a bar for a drink, and so like there's some that have led to some really cool stuff like that. Or like one person I met that they were in London, and then like when me and my sisters went to London, like we met up with him for his birthday party. So like that one was really fun. But then the other ones I feel like are like those bonds that we made with like the group of like our close friends and my sisters and all, where we were where we were together and like cuddle puddles and wearing onesies and doing all those things. I think like those are definitely some of like the best memories I have of festivals for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's cool how I feel like it's the same with me. If I were to try to answer that question, it's not. I can't really say, oh, it's just this festival because it was this artist and they played this song, or their set was so good. Like there's all that, but right along holding hands with it is, I mean, Coachella was so fun because Coachella is fun, but it was like the fact that we were in a house together, like all of our really good friends, like just you're basically it felt like we were living someone else's life or something for a few
Mhm.
days. You just get to go move into this big old house with a pool and hang out with like amazing people, feel confident. Yeah, it's the whole trip, like even the bad stuff that comes like when I missed my flight and had to like sleep in the airport. Like that's like a cool thing to me. Like it was just part of the story now,
Did
like
you
the
lose
whole
your
trip.
luggage too one time?
Yeah. I remember we're sitting by the pool and I'm like in sweatpants and just yeah. They ended up bringing it to the Airbnb,
Yeah.
but yeah, they lost my luggage.
I think, one thing that I think of festivals, I do think as, like frivolous or as silly as like people might perceive them. I think that, like when I think about the Coachella experiences, as I think they do serve such a good purpose because it's like that one, for a few days or for a week or whatever it is of the year, you're gonna go and like when you're there, you're so immersed in the experience of the festival and your priorities are just literally like have fun,
Yeah.
smile, talk to people, like look at beautiful things, look at art, experience music, dance, like you can it's like fun because you get to temporarily live in that bubble and like you don't really fight there's an outside world. Like this is the world. The center, like
Yeah.
the ends of the universe are right here on the ends of these grounds. And like when we're in here, it's safe and it's protected and it's special and it's sacred. And I think that that's like, and I think that like being able to do that, once or twice a year, I think allows us to get through the mundane Groundhog's Day of life and work and whatever. So it's like, I think that like everyone deserves like that outlet. And I wonder like too, like what has that done for people, for people's mental health, like just working every single day, nothing to look forward to, no escape. So I think it'll be really kind of cool to see like, and I think we were texting about this last week or whatever, but you're like, I was like, I miss Coachella. And you're like, I'm excited to see what like the rebirth is. Like what are
Mm.
festivals going to be in the future? Like how are they going to, or how are they going to have evolved? And like, it's going to be something because it will be different. It's going to feel different. So I'm excited to see like what that'll, becomes and what we get to experience the next time we get to do it.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, because I mean, festivals were just leveling up more and more each year. Like you look at Pasquale Rotella, who runs Insomniac, so EDC. I mean, the amount of money, time, artistry, like, looking at the stages, the lights that go with everything, the visuals, like they just kept leveling up and up. And then Coachella had a few years back, they had like the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
I was there
there's
for that one.
oh, you were for the Tupac hologram?
That was my first one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I went until the year after, but I
Yeah.
remember just like
That was
being blown
2000.
away.
Yeah. Hologram was 2012. I remember. So yeah, I know like the girls didn't come, I think, till 13 or 14. Yeah.
Yo, so we better get like tons of holograms. I'm trying to get like full band holograms at this point.
I think it's going to be like just like totally immersive experience in every way. Like,
Yeah.
I think didn't Odessa do drones one year? I don't I think they did a big thing with drones one year too, which was cool. So like I could see them doing a bunch more stuff like not even like that was built from the ground, but like what are they gonna do with drones? What kind of visuals can they do? What kind of like, can you put like can you cast like a like a hypothetical like a net or like a field of like drones that can like connect lights on the top so you feel like you're in like a under something like there's pretty cool stuff that I think.
Yo, I can't even imagine the feeling of that. I mean, because when you're at a concert, when you're at a festival, like when something crazy like that happens, or imagine when a special guest comes out that you weren't planning on,
Oh yeah.
like like everybody next to you, you're just like, oh my God. Do you see? It's just you lose your mind, and I think that I'm really hoping that when we hit the ground running and festivals come back, it's just next. It's just like there's drones, there's holograms, there's special guests. It's just all those things to make everybody there like really feel present. And like you were saying, it's very important. I think a lot of us, we work all the time, and it's like, what are we working for in a sense? Like just being alive. If you're just saving money and you're just working, like there's times to just work, but to go experience like the payoff of what you worked for, that's a huge part of human life. And so I think when we go back, it's gonna be roaring 20s. It's gonna be drones, everything.
Well, think about all the artists, all the creators, all the DJs, all the musicians. Like they're going to be craving so much to be in front of people, like to
Mhm.
experience that again. Like like so that's going to be cool too. Like I can imagine that everyone is going to be looking for like the greatest ways to connect with people again and create those like awesome experiences. So I think there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure hopefully in the next few years, Josh, you and I will be cheersing with a beer somewhere at a festival at some point somehow.
Kind of content.
At the Heineken tent, where you're just like chugging 25 Heineken lights so you can get your buzz, your $14 beers. It happened. That's all part of it though. Like I feel like when you go into a festival or like even a sporting event, you're like, yeah, man, the beer's $12. That's just part of the thing. I'm gonna enjoy it every sip, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Give me another one. I'll take two.
Yeah, yeah. So we're getting a little up here in time, and I know you had, I think another meeting. So I did want to. There's a question I've been asking guests lately, and so just see if anything pops in your mind for this. What would you say the world could use more of right now? Like, what does the world need right now?
Yeah, I don't know how to sum it up in a few words, but I will try. I
Don't
think
you don't need to summarize it. You can go on forever. Doesn't matter.
I think the world needs more like openness to understanding. Like I think that I think right now everyone is so divisive on both sides. Like I think it's challenging to have a conversation right now. I think, and there's so many things that contribute to it, but like I think we like everyone needs to look inward and just say, who am I? Like, what do I want to be? Yes, I might feel really strongly or really passionate about something. Um, but do I want to, how do I want to be able to communicate around what that is or what I feel without creating like more of a divide and creating more hate and more frustration? Because I just like right now, everyone is on opposite sides. Like we talked about the vaccine. I mean, there's people like that I'm friends with or follow on social media that like are very anti-vaccine and think it's, horrible. But it's like you can see that it's like eating them alive, and they feel like every day they have to like fight to prove this, and that it's so horrible and that it's so bad. But I'm like, I don't think that they're realizing like that they're letting some of these issues eat them alive. And I don't think that we should go and like put our heads in the sand about politics or about the world or anything that's going on. But I do think there has to be like the healthy balance of I want to share my opinion. I might post an article and say, hey, this is interesting. Take a look at it. Versus, like there's different ways to frame things, or that you're probably going to get people to be more open to what you have to say or your viewpoint. But I think right now, right now we need to listen more and actually listen, not be listening to rebuttal or refute what the other person's saying, but truly listen and try to understand like where they're coming from. But at the same time, I think like, again, self-reflect. The only thing in the world we can control is ourselves, right? For the most part. So it's like control we can control. Look at ourselves and say like, am I allowing something to take me over? Am I letting, like you said, if I wake up and there's like a headline about Donald Trump, I don't want to start my day with that. And I know what headspace that's going to put me in. And it's probably going to make me upset or angry or depressed but like negative. So then like, what are you going to go carry on to your day? You're going to carry all those things with you. So it's like, just like, don't let anything consume you or take you over. Like, to a point where like it impacts your life in a negative way. Like, have your beliefs, be strong, find ways to speak your voice, get involved, make a change, whether it's, Black Lives Matter, whether it's volunteering, whatever it is, but I think, do it in a way that it produces more positivity than negativity, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. I'm totally with you on that, man. I think a lot of our identities kind of get wrapped up in things that they're not actually super important to us. There's underlying meanings of things that are important to us that aren't worth just completely throwing off by the wayside. But we do get really consumed by these things. Me, for example, like I said, if I start my day with like the wrong kind of news stories, sometimes I'll get just obsessed with it and I'm just thinking about it all day. And then, like when you're a hammer, everything's a nail or whatever they say, right? Like you're almost like seeing everything through the lens of like just politics, or seeing everything through the lens of like, oh, so you must be a this supporter, you must be a that supporter. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's a great one. I think the world definitely needs more of that, Josh.
More of your podcast.
More of my podcasts. I'll try to do more episodes. I've got 4 days in a row. I've got new guests. So far, well, right now I'm doing good with it.
That's good. No, I'm so happy for you, and I know you're doing great things here, and I feel really honored and grateful to, and humbled just to be, one person that you've asked on to, maybe I invited myself on, but
No, I asked you.
no, I'm just joking. Kind of. But no, I am humbled to be part of this. I think, you are a really special person, and I know you're such a positive light in all of our lives, and everyone that knows you and that you touch, you make such a positive impact. And I love to see you wanting to grow that network and grow the positivity and, just connect with people. And, you're such an amazing person. So I'm really proud of you.
Wow, thank you, Josh, so much. I really appreciate that. Actually, at our Thanksgiving Friendsgiving, I felt. I mean, I was like almost in tears of gratitude because I feel like you guys all. I don't know if you planned it or what, but you all took time to like individually, like tell me that I'm special, or like tell me, like, hey, I love you, or I appreciate what you're doing. I felt like everybody found their moments throughout the day and throughout the night to like corner me and just tell me, like, I felt so full of love. And you guys always do that though. You guys are always like very like, let's not ignore this real feeling that's on the surface. Let's communicate it to these people. And like I said, just by you all being your own authentic selves, I feel like it gives me permission to be my authentic self too. And that's why I've always been drawn to you guys since we all first met. I really admire your guys's friendships and your family friendships. It's like the fact that you allow other people on the outside, like even just friends, to be in on this like very family loving vibe. It's incredible. And I'm grateful to know you and your family and friends as well, Josh.
Awesome. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
buddy. Yeah, thank you again for coming on. We'll go ahead and end this. Listener, if you haven't drank any water today, what's your problem, man? You got to drink some water. And if you haven't stretched today, you're out of your mind. Get some stretches on, get some water, get physically moving, love yourself, stop consuming too much media content, and check out Josh Gebb on Instagram. All right, have a good day, buddy.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you could, hit like, subscribe, follow, share, leave a comment, send to one of your friends, whatever you got. I'd really appreciate it. We'll see you next episode.